All right. Everything's malfunctioning. All right. So I guess my OBS is malfunctioning too. Hmm. Okay, we ground ourselves. I don't know why OBS malfunctioned just now. So consequence here is silence or nothingness. Or there is absence, or there is no response. And all right, so there is no response. That is the consequences. So when there's this mismatch that happens between expected reward, yeah, I'm sorry, my OBS malfunctioned at the same time as my iPad, so I'm not really sure what happened there. I'm trying to make the explanation quick, right? So when there is an expected reward over here and there is an actual outcome, and there is a mismatch over here that happens, what ends up happening is it produces stress signal to the brain. So dopamine goes down, and then your cortisol rises. Then the nervous system kind of goes into this very mild stress or threat state, not because you're in danger of any sorts, but because you know social bonds are also kind of survival cues. So sometimes you will find people. Sometimes people will say, why does this feel like a punch in the chest? Sometimes people have said that, and that's because it is. It is. It kind of is, right? The brain processes your social rejection and loss using the same circuit. It's the same circuit that processes physical pain. So, specifically, the oh God. Okay. So it's called the anterior cingulate cortex. So it doesn't really differentiate between, being physically hurt and socially cut off. Socially cut off. So if you look at from an evolutionary perspective, right, being cut off from the group could mean death. Yeah, that's how it's perceived. So then what ends up happening is your body processes or it reacts very fast. So you will see things like tightness, you will see heaviness, sinking of the sinking feeling that you get. So that's your autonomic nervous system kind of shifting different states. And then your body is saying that, oh my God, a bond that really mattered is no longer available for me. So no, it's just basic biology, right? We're not in the philosophy part yet. So now, after the body reacts, the mind kind of tries to make meaning out of it. So a human mind cannot, tolerate um, something called relational ambiguity. So when someone is gone but not gone, they're still visible, still named, still stored in your phone. It kind of creates something called a cognitive dissonance. So I'm writing keywords on here so that later, if you don't know the meaning of anything, you can still go and look it up, right? Instead of me explaining everything. Um, because I wanted to keep the stream short in the first place. So your thoughts when this happened starts doing its job, right? So it goes, when did this happen? Or did I miss something? Or was it was it always like this? And I didn't notice? Or yeah, did I matter less than I thought? This is where our overthinking happens, right? So the mind is trying to update the internal representation that we looked at earlier for this person, where the main question here is, who are they now? Who are they to me now? So that becomes the main question that your brain is trying to answer. But there is no clear answer, and so you have these thoughts that keep looping in circles, right? So, what you're experiencing when this happens is not nostalgia. I've heard people say it's nostalgia. It is not nostalgia. It's not attachment issues. It's not that either. This is actually grief. The only thing is, it is without um, social permission. So, when you think about classical grief, you think of, let's say, there is a clear loss, there is a clear ending, or there's some kind of social script that play over here. But this situation, where they just become a contact, has none of this. It just does not exist, right? So there was no funeral. There's no we're done conversation. There's no ritual that said, this particular chapter is closed in my life. So instead, there's this digital phrase that kind of keeps saying that they exist, just without you. Sorry, I'm laughing uncomfortably because, I'm also victim to this particular situation, right? Don't worry, my laughter is just a coping mechanism. I'm not laughing at you. All right. I think we all have. Yeah, I think so. So this particular situation is called an ambiguous loss, right? So the situation is called an ambiguous loss. An ambiguous loss is kind of harder on your psyche than definitive endings because the brain doesn't really know when to stop hoping. So let's look at some indigenous psychology. Indigenous psychology is basically like psychology related to specific groups of people or specific places. It's kind of native to over there. So in the Indian context, I will start with Indian psychology because, this is what applies to me the most. So we look at Indian psychology. So, in Indian psychological traditions, the mind is not just a thinker, so it is a holder of impressions. So, every meaningful interaction that we have kind of leaves something called a samskara. This is like an emotional imprint. So, when a relationship kind of ends without conscious release, the samskara remains active. So seeing the person's name will reactivate this imprint, like, touching a bruise that never fully healed. And so you go on these loops over and over again, right? And then let's take Chinese um, psychology. So over here, they understand relationships as flow of energy. So when a bond kind of ends very abruptly or quietly, the energy doesn't really disappear, it ends up stagnating. So that heaviness that you feel isn't longing, it's just unresolved relational energy waiting for some kind of integration to happen, right? And then there's the Mari psychology. So I wanted to include Mari because a lot of my friends happen to be Mari, and I really liked their culture a lot, so I thought I'd include it here. So they look at identity as something that is relational. So you don't just lose the person itself. You lose who you were with them. So that version of you that spoke that language or shared those jokes or held that particular role in their life has gone. So when you notice that, they're just a contact, that loss is not just external, it is also very internal. So now your brain thinks, that version of me has nowhere to go now. And your phone makes this worse by a million times, right? So in olden days, relationships kind of faded because, distance just erased the cues that were there. Memories would soften. Now here, when you're with your phone, your cues just stay sharp all the time. So your brain keeps encountering a symbol of connection without the connection itself. Symbol without connection. So this repeatedly reopens the loss without really allowing any form of completion to occur. So this does not mean that you are stuck. There is an environment um, that doesn't support emotional processing. So what does this mean? Because when this happens, I know so many people confuse the situation. When this happens, it does not mean that you want them back. It does not mean that you haven't grown. It does not mean that you're failing at detachment. It just means that your nervous system needs an update. Your system OS needs an update, right? So your brain is basically saying this person has moved from lived relationship to memory. And this transition will obviously hurt because it's a reorganization. Uh, and that's a lot. It's not weakness. And over here, healing's not going to be deleting their contact or forcing some kind of closure to occur. You need to slowly teach your system that this bond existed, it mattered, and it no longer functions in the present, in the present, right? So that is going to take a long time because it is definitely biological. There's emotional, social, cultural. It's not just logical. um do I have time? Let me just see if I have time. If I have time, I'll talk about how to um go about with this. Okay, I don't have enough time, so I'll keep this very short, but I'll just quickly wrap this up. So we look at this update that you need, this update that you have. This update is needed because this relationship is no longer active. And with proper support, three things can happen. So, one is your nervous system will learn safety without the bond. So, initially, your body reacts to their name, um, like as though something important is going to happen. So, that we looked at earlier is conditioning. And over time, with the right kind of support, your system can learn something new. That is, I can see that this reminder, um, that this is a reminder, and this can remain regulated, right? So this doesn't happen through logic. There's no logic here. This will only happen through your felt experience. So each time you notice that, you don't spiral, you don't collapse, you don't end up self-abandoning. Uh, and your nervous system will actually do something called rewiring. That is the whole reason um, therapists exist or coaches exist, is to help with this rewiring. It takes a lot of time, and it's not something that'll get over in just 1 day or 2 days. It's a long process. And then eventually their name will become your neutral data or neutral stimulus. If you're a psych student, you know what that is. And this is not going to be a threat cue. So that would be a conditioned stimulus, right? And this particular process of rewiring is what you will call extinction learning. It's not erasure, right? You're slowly letting it fade. Now, the second thing that can happen with the right kind of support is that the relationship kind of moved from present to integrated memory. So from present to integrated memory. So right now the bond is very psychologically unfinished. So it's still stored as something that's ongoing, even though reality says otherwise, right? So natural completion happens when the mind does something very, very specific. So it will reassign the relationship to the past without denying meaning. So without denying meaning. And this becomes very important um, because when you integrate, in a very healthy fashion, the brain will say, "Hey, this mattered. It shaped me, and it does not belong to my present relational world." So that is very different from "it meant nothing" or "I shouldn't care" or "I was stupid." those block this particular integration. The third thing that can happen is, identity stabilizes again. So part of the pain is losing who you were with them, right? So when you reclaim those parts, the voice that you used, the confidence and the softness that you felt when you were with this person, the version of you that showed up there, once those parts are integrated into your current self, the bond no longer feels like it is some form of a missing limb, right? So that's when you scroll and then it doesn't hurt anymore. It's not because you're numb. This is not numbness. It is not numbness. It means that you're whole again. So it is wholeness. It's very different from numbness. Um, so when I told my friend, why don't you go see a therapist for this or a coach for this? Because I can't obviously therapize her. I don't know if that's a word, but I cannot do therapy for her because of my own biases, right? It's ethically wrong. Um, she said, "Oh, what are they gonna do?" Right? So I'm here to tell you what they will do. They will not try to fix your attachment. They're not gonna fix your attachment. They will not rush closure, because there is no closure here. You're not gonna talk to them again. So their job is to support the nervous system through this reorganization, the rewiring that we looked at earlier, right? So one is they will help you stay present with the discomfort without really drowning in it. So most people will kind of um, oscillate between two things. One is overthinking, and the other one is avoidance. So, what a therapist will do is just help you sit just enough with the feeling so that your system can process it without overthinking it. Um, and that's how you will slowly complete grief, not by intensity, but like tolerable contact. It's not going to be too intense, right? Then another thing they will help you with is naming that particular loss accurately. Because a lot of people end up suffering longer because this loss is unnamed. Your therapist will help you articulate, what exactly was lost, what never got said, what role this person played in your life. Once that loss is named currently, naming is very important. The psyche will stop flailing. So clarity will again calm the nervous system. And then it will also help you separate self worth from a relational outcome. So, um, usually when you have this particular pattern that happens, some people think that, oh, I was replaceable. Oh, I didn't matter much. Um, I misread the bond that we had. No, a good therapist will never argue with these thoughts. They will help you contextualize, right? So not everything that ends has failed. Not everything that fades was false. That reframing reduces the shame that happens because shame is what keeps grief kind of stuck. Um, and then they will do something called facilitation, um, where they will help you get internal closure. So, closure is not something you can always get from the other person. Closure is internal, it is not external. So, they will, guide you with certain things like unsent conversations or meaning reconstruction or, your symbolic endings. And they're not cheeky exercises. A lot of people, who've been through therapy, it might feel like it, when you hear about it, but when you actually do it, oh my God, you'll understand that they're rituals for the nervous system. Um, that's why in a lot of indigenous psychology, they call it the ritualized endings. Um, I don't know if you've heard of it. Some specific therapies that could, so I'll just put therapies over here, would be attachment based. So here they will talk about, help you understand why this bond mattered, or how your nervous, or how your system forms some kind of closeness, how to feel secure again without the person. It's very grounding. It's not blaming anybody. Then you have something called somatic therapies. Um, so they're also sensory motor related, right? So this is great when that pain feels very physical for you, or the reaction is very sudden and very bodily. Words don't fully touch what it is. So these therapies will work below cot level. So they will look at where the injury lives. Then you have narrative therapy. I really like narrative therapy. So they will help you rewrite the meaning of that particular relationship. They will help you place it correctly in your life story, and you will stop looping on what if. So this is like very, very helpful. If you don't have closure, this is great, right? Then you have integrative therapy, or culturally informed therapy. So they will, um, if you prefer, if you're like let's say if you're somebody who's very religious, right, or you love indigenous thinking, then integrative therapy works well, because they will help you relationalize um, yourself, energy, meaning, ritual, and they will go beyond Western individualism, and they do not rush to independence. Coaching can also help. Um, Again, um, I guess coaching kind of gets misunderstood here in a way, but also it's definitely better to do coaching once you're done with your therapy and it's kind of lowered a little bit in intensity, right? What do you mean by relationalized? Oh, when I say relationalized self, so self, the concept of self is a big topic. So self, what self means to me and self means to you can be very, very different things. Similarly, self in an Indian context is very different from the Western world. So relationalizing self is basically the therapist will understand what self means to you and then help with integrating the rest of, the stuff to this particular self. This will be energy, this can be meaning, um, your grief itself. All of this will be integrated into this self that you make. That's what I meant when I said relationalize. So coming back to coaching, um, so coaching works well when the grief is not overwhelming. So initial stages definitely go for therapy, you know, don't rush into coaching. Um, s- and then also when you're feeling functional but you're kind of unsettled, um, so therapy will basically help you cope, and coaching is very forward oriented, right? So if you want forward integration and not excavation in a way, then coaching is good. So in coaching, you will do things like identity rebuilding, or redefining I'm just going to put a redefinition. So redefining your relational boundaries, um, or reclaiming agency and direction. But they don't process trauma. So in coaching, you don't process trauma. Okay, you do that in therapy. So they will support meaning making and future orientation. So that is what coaching does. But processing happens in therapy. All right. So other people that you can probably look at, you have grief informed counselors. Keep in mind, grief is not only for people who are going through like some kind of death, right? It can also be some kind of ambiguous loss, right? And then you have expressive arts therapists. Um, so these people use things like art therapy, music therapy, dance therapy, and help you form some kind of symbolic expression to complete that loop that is missing, right? Or you can also do group therapy. Group therapy works great. Um, I'm just going to put spaces. So it can be therapy sessions, coaching sessions. Um, if you want to feel like, you're not the only one, then this works great. Um, yeah, that's where you can find help, if you want to find help for this. Uh, so when you do feel this particular pain, it does not mean that you're clinging. It does not mean that you loved or bonded in a world that just doesn't teach you how to end it well. Um, with the right kind of support, like I mentioned, any of these, right? With the right kind of support, um, this will complete without forcing, without erasing, without betraying yourself. And you can feel this deeply and still stay present, and that is not called broken. People call themselves broken, or that they break when this happens. It is not broken. I think that at that point that person is more emotionally awake, right? uh but yeah, that's basically what I wanted to talk about today. um I hope that helped. um I don't know if this has helped you, but let me know in the comments if this has helped you, if it helped you understand like some concepts about why this happens. Um, it's gonna take time to process, you know, especially when, like I said, it's grief, right? It's not a small thing. It may look like a small thing. It's not a small thing. All right. Um, that's about it. That's all I wanted to discuss. I'll put this up on YouTube in case you want to watch it later, or pay more attention and rewatch it, or just you find this new, it'll be there on YouTube. I just wanted to explain the concept. That's all. hmm All right. Thank you so much for stopping by, Archer. Seems like you were the only person here today, but I hope that this has helped. Um, I really, really hope that this has helped. Um, if you to share, yeah, that would be great. If you guys shared it, that would be great. uh, all right. I will end the stream now. Was interesting for sure. Yeah. Let me know if you want me to do more like this. Take a situation and explain what exactly is happening, and then where you can probably find help for this situation. Um, there will be streams sometimes where I tell you how exactly you can work through it, but then that might be, I might restrict that to Patreon because, it'll help me with do more pro bono stuff. All right. Thanks for stopping by. Yes, yes, yes. Um, so I did notice there were a few people viewing now and then. So whether you spoke or you just existed quietly in the background, I did see you. I do see you, and I'm really, really proud of you for being here. Um, just remember that healing does not follow a straight line. And it's the same thing that goes with leveling up, right? It's okay if all you did today was just breathe. That's more than enough. Um, I'll be here again, and you can come by anytime you want to, whenever you're ready. Right. Until then, be kind to your heart, drink your potions, especially water. And don't forget that you are still the main character in the story. All right. Pixel out.